The devil is in the detail, or to put it in simpler terms, the life you live is made up of each choice that you make. And alone those choices may not seem significant, especially in the short term. You could take flight from one location to another with minor differences in your trajectory and still end up in the same location. But over time, the impact of each choice made prior becomes more significant. What brought you to money doesn't necessarily bring you to wealth. What brought you to sex won't always lead to love. And so the moment that we begin our journey is the moment we decide our destination. I used to look at things at face value and not look a whole lot deeper than that. I would rule out certain things because I just assumed that they led to certain outcomes that I wasn't interested in. Over the years, I've naturally tried new things, as a curious person does. And I've realized that a lot of the assumptions that I had about the world and certain activities were quite incorrect. When I was growing up, it was kind of articulated to me that everything was quite obvious. A led to B, school led to college, college led to a degree, which led to a job, or so it seemed. But in actual reality, school led to college, which led to a degree. But to this day, I've never actually used that degree. See, when I was in college, I wasn't really interested in the studies, but what did happen was I was introduced to a new way of life, and that led me to meet new people. And I was hanging out with this kind of eclectic mix of people in the Students' Union. We were interested in extracurricular activities. And I ended up even getting a job within that Students' Union, which was a job I had to run for. So I was a student politician, you could say. But that led me to meet a lot of people. It led me to try a lot of new things that I wouldn't have otherwise done. And through that, I was able to find myself a lot of interesting job opportunities. And that led me to meeting different people, doing all sorts of weird things like street marketing, different seasonal events, and just having, this skill set and this network that I would never have tapped into if I hadn't gone to college. So I went into the college experience expecting one thing, but something else came out of it that I didn't even know was a possibility. Know that you don't need to have the answer before you begin the journey. You don't have to know exactly where you're going. I started bouldering again recently, and it's really reminded me of the importance of just doing things and filling your day and your life with activities. Even if you don't know exactly what that activity is going to bring to your life, having it there is so important. Because, as an example, today I woke up and decided I was going to go bouldering this evening, which meant that I needed to get things done within the constraint of the daytime hours. And by having an activity later on in the day that I'm committed to, I make better use of this time here. This is just a brief update post climbing session. All of the worries of the world just disappeared in those 2 hours. I was in a flow state, you could say, which really it's a state of clarity where you're not thinking about all of the things that aren't real. Like, your mind just plays so many tricks on you when you're allowing it to run free. Whereas if you give it a task like get up that wall, you get up that wall and you figure out how to get up that wall for the next 2 hours, and you're not worried about what that email said or that person that didn't text you, because you're just present. If you have 10 hours to do something, it's probably going to take you 10 hours to do something. If you have 2 hours to do something, it'll probably take you 2 hours. I usually upload videos on a Friday. Lately, I've kind of just not even started working on the video until Friday. I have made videos from start to finish and uploaded them in like an hour, and they might get, thousands of views or tens of thousands of views. But then similarly, I've made videos that took 40 hours that got tens of views or hundreds of views. If you set sail to make the perfect video, you might not end up where you want to be. Because if your goal is, growth of an audience, making one perfect video might not get you there. Although to your ego, it seems like a great idea because, you think you're amazing, but ultimately in the space of the internet and YouTube and whatnot, you could upload a video and then just nothing happens. So I'd rather upload 10 videos that were, to a decent standard than one video that was to a really high standard, because at least with the 10 videos, there's 10 chances that it's going to reach people. And since you are your own worst critic, I am my own worst critic, the 10 videos are probably still going to have an impact if they do reach the people. For me, it's always the videos that I don't really care too much about that end up doing quite well. Consistent action, even though you're unaware of what the result might be, is more beneficial than taking eternity to make or do one thing that you think is going to have a profound impact, and then as it turns out it doesn't. You have to remember that you're a human, which means you're kind of stupid. We don't actually know what is possible. We just think we know, and then we go and do things based on what we think, which is usually a teeny sliver of actual reality. And then we end up in a situation where we dedicate all of this energy to one thing that was actually not the thing that was going to allow us to evolve and turn into, our next highest self, whatever. I used to denounce people that ran. I thought it was silly. And something I've realized is that if someone's doing something that I think is silly, I'm probably just not yet educated enough on that thing that they're doing. Because if anyone's doing something, it's because they get something out of it. I didn't think that by running long distances, I would learn things and equip myself with the mindset required to succeed in creative endeavors or in business related activities or in relationships. And ultimately what it came down to for me was that running is a battle against your mind. My mind will try to stop me from running, even though my body is quite capable of continuing. And often my mind will try to sabotage me when it comes to certain relationships, be they business relationships or friendships or otherwise. And what happens is my mind will have some story about something, and then I will act in accordance with that story, which ends up often not being true, but then it sabotages the relationship because I think that this person is disrespecting me or attacking me, when in a lot of cases, that's not the case. They're just expressing themselves and then I'm interpreting it in a certain way. Of course, there's nuance to that. Sometimes people are just not being nice people. I'm not going to talk much about that here because it's not relevant to this topic. But the point is, you don't know how good life can be, and you don't know what you need to do in order for life to be as good as it can be. So the best thing that you can do is take a little inkling of curiosity and pursue it. See where it takes you. Going rock climbing might look like going rock climbing, but as I just explained, it structures the entire day to the point where I can create more effectively, I can have fun, I exercise, and who knows who I might meet at the climbing gym. These are all ancillary things that happen as a result of the main point of focus. So life is going to happen around the things you spend your time doing. It's not like you do a thing and then life happens. It's like, no, life is happening all the time. And you just need to get in motion so that things can happen for you and with you. If you're stagnant, the best thing to do is to get moving. But getting moving is difficult. Plant yourself on a hill on a bike and try start cycling up that hill. It's going to be really hard because gravity's pulling you down. You're tired trying to go up, and it's pretty painful. You got to realize that that pain and that friction is only there temporarily. Because once you start getting momentum in the opposite direction, it gets easier to go that direction. Like starting something is the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing to do when it comes to going for a run is putting on your shoes and going out there and then doing the first few K. And then once you've got that under your belt, things are loose and you're like, oh, actually this is pretty fun. It's the same with creating things. If you're making videos, taking out the camera and starting talking is the hardest part. Like this video, I'm going to edit it probably. And I've said lots of stuff that I think is stupid, but I've got a bit of a flow going. So I can just keep talking and then I know I can delete all of that stuff later. I'm not letting it stop me because I've got so much momentum in the creative pursuit of this video. I'm talking, I'm too far in. I'm 14 minutes and 55 seconds into talking to this camera. And I'm not just going to revert back to being sat there with nothing to say, even if most of what I'm saying isn't going to make the final cut of this video. You need to let go of this pursuit for perfection because it doesn't exist. It's just some idea you have of what's right in your mind. But the truth is everything is subjective. Because what you think is perfect, I might think is imperfect, and vice versa. Move, flow, act, do things, say things, try things, and then just allow life to jump on board with you. and co-create, co-captain. Is that a word? Let life be your vice captain and allow it to present opportunities to you that you didn't even think of. And then your mind will be like, oh, nope, that's not what we're looking for. But then you might just think, oh, but actually I'm curious about that. Maybe I will try that. And then you don't know where that will lead you. The most magical things have happened for me as a result of just taking a tiny action towards something that I didn't know was going to go anywhere. You know, it's like clicking on that Discord server at the right time of day puts you in connection with that person who is needing help with something at that particular moment. Uploading a video at a certain time to YouTube is what connects you with that person or that client that happened to be on their home feed in that moment when you uploaded it and they clicked on your video. And then we're going to flip this on its head, because just like I didn't know what running was going to bring into my life, I might think I want something, right? So I thought I didn't want to run, so I didn't run, without realizing that running was actually the thing that brought a lot of clarity and meaning and confidence into all aspects of my life. Then here's another thing that I thought I wanted, that I got, that didn't actually have the desired result. And that was having viral videos. I've had a few viral videos as a content creator over the last 5 years and reached millions of people. And it didn't really have the desired effect. I thought that it would bring me wealth and happiness and connection. But upon going viral, I realized, yeah, it generates some wealth, but it doesn't really bring happiness, because then I started chasing virality and chasing views, and then when views went down, then that was upsetting. And then the other side of it is that when you go viral, your net is cast so wide that you don't end up having quality within your audience. Of course, there's some quality, but there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of clutter, there's a lot of scrutiny and angry people that don't have any interest in the message and what I'm trying to do here with content creation. I actually recorded a little voice note last night before I went to bed, so I'm gonna play that for you now because I think it's quite nice and it captures this whole idea of, you know, casting a wide net versus having a smaller, more focused, niche idea. I've shifted from wanting wide reach to realizing that that's not actually the best way for me to support myself and the people that connect with what I'm creating here. What I've realized is that attention is not equal, and having attention from 1 million people is not necessarily better than attention from 1,000 people. It's about the quality of that person. It's about the quality that I can bring to someone's life. And just because someone is engaging with my art doesn't mean that they're benefiting from my art. The numbers are not what defines success, but it's your own internal system of recognition that defines success. For a while, I did decide that numbers mattered, and I was blessed to connect with a certain number of people. And it's only in doing that that I realized that that wasn't necessarily the goal. And so many people will tell you money doesn't buy happiness, or this doesn't do that. I do believe most of that stuff to be true, but I think it's naive to just go about your life preaching something that you've never practiced. And so I'm excited to say that reaching certain lifestyle design goals didn't make me happy, or that reaching certain income goals didn't make me happy, or that living in certain places, or that having a certain amount of people watch a video and leave a comment and hit subscribe didn't make me happy, because it's allowed me to cultivate a deeper relationship with myself and to identify that which actually brings me